Uh, Dear students, in the previous lecture, we have discussed about the introduction and the comparison of the electric heating in comparison to the conventional sorts of heating. After this, in the second lecture, we have discussed about the heating element. We have discussed about the heating element and what are the materials we use for the heating element, and after this what are the issues which normally arises in the heating element. In today's lecture we are moving towards the resistance heating, and in resistance heating we have already uh, discussed some of the things which are related to the mode of transfer of heat and all other things. But here the method of electric heating consists of two. Number one is the power frequency heating, and number second is the high frequency heating. These two categories of electric heating are further divided into uh, many types. The power frequency heating consists of again two. One is the resistance heating and the other one is the arc heating. In resistance heating, we have again divided it into direct resistance heating and indirect resistance heating. So today's lecture normally and typically consists of only resistance heating, and we will discuss about its types, its working, and what are their applications in our daily life. After this, we will discuss about the arc heating. Again, there are two types of arc heating. One is the direct arc heating and another one is the indirect arc heating. After this, we will go towards the high frequency heating. In high frequency heating, there is an induction heating. Again, two types: direct induction heating, indirect induction heating. After this, there is a dielectric heating and infrared or radiating heating. So basically, electric heating is divided into four types. One is basically the power frequency heating. Second one is the high frequency heating. Third one is the dielectric heating, and the fourth one is the infrared or radiant heating. So in today we will just cover the power frequency heating, which is the resistance heating. Uh, as the name indicates that here the current passes through the resistive element. Power loss take place, I square R loss take place, which appears in the form of heat. So this phenomena is normally occur in resistance O1. So what are the properties of the resistance heating elements are: the heating element should have high resistivity, it should have low temperature coefficient of resistance, it should have high melting point, and it should be free from oxidation. All these four categories are already discussed in second lecture. So I am not going to repeat all of these things. So now I will go towards the types of the resistance heating. The first one is the direct resistance heating. In this type of heating, electric current pass through the charge itself. Now here it is necessary to define what is charge. Charge is any material which we are going to heat, which we are going to melt. Okay? This current produces I square R losses in the form of heat within the body itself. Okay, this principle is made use in resistance welding and in heating water by means of electrode boiler. So the common example which you see every day in your home is the heating water. Uh, Many of you have already seen that there is a spiral type of heating element, and you just connect it with the socket, and after this you put the spiral shape in the bucket containing water. So after some time the water gets heated. So what is going on behind this? Behind this, the current is passing through the spiral shape heating element. There is a I square R loss and heat is produced. This heating element is in direct contact with the water. So the heat is transferred from the heating element to the water by the phenomena of conduction or convection. In this way, the water gets heated up. In case of electrode boiler, the electrodes are lowered into the tank filled with water. The current flow through the electrodes into the water, and the water gets heated by I square R losses. For temperature up to 100 degrees Celsius, mild steel electrodes are used. So this example is basically related to the water. So this figure shows the sketch of the direct resistance heating. So it is basically the metal tank, and there are two electrodes which is shown in dark black color rods. It is connected to the AC or DC supply. There is a charge, there is any material which we are going to heat up. Sometimes to perform heating fast, we put the high resistive powder on the surface of the charge so that more amount of heat is produced and the charge gets heated or melted as much fast as it can. So the use of the high resistive powder is dependent on the material which we are going to heat. Okay, when the supply is on, I square R losses are produced in these electrodes, and if there is a high resistive powder on the surface of the charge, the I square R loss or heat is also produced on the surface of the charge. So these electrodes are in contact with, directly in contact with the charge. When the charge near to the electrodes get heated up, it becomes melt down. When it becomes melt down or heated, it moves away from the electrode. So the few or fresh charge takes its place. So automatically stirring action has been taken place within this material. Now what is the stirring action? Stirring action is that the rotation of the charge, the rotation of the material take place automatically. We are not going to put any external material to stir the charge. Okay, so automatically stirring action has been taken place within it. AC supply is used having voltage varies from 2 to 20 volts and voltage and current up to 2500 amperes. Okay, automatic stirring action is produced in the charge to be heated, and no external method of stirring is required to get uniform heating. So all this is about the direct resistance heating. I am just going to repeat the basic phenomena. In it, the basic phenomena is that we have high resistive elements, high resistive electrodes, and these high resistive electrodes are put into the charge, and sometimes above the charge we put the high resistive powder according to our requirement. Whenever the current passes through the high resistive electrodes, I square R loss or heat is produced. This heat is so much that the charge near to it becomes heated or melted, and automatic stirring action has been taken place, because once it becomes heated or melted, it goes down. The fresh material will take its place. So the automatic stirring action has been taken place in the direct resistance heating. Now we will move towards the indirect resistance heating. In indirect resistance heating, the current does not flow through the body to be heated, but it flows through the resistive element which get heated up. The heat is then transferred from heating element to the charge, mainly by radiation or convection. So from the figure it becomes very much clear that in this indirect resistance heating there are three chambers: chamber number 1, chamber number 2, chamber number 3. In the middle chamber there is a high resistive element or electrode is there, but in the other sides of this middle chamber, the charge is placed in it. So the current is passed through it, it becomes heated, it produces heat, and heat is transferred from the middle chamber to the other two chambers by radiation, by the phenomena of radiation or convection. So this form of heating, we say that it is the indirect resistance heating. Here the charge is not in direct contact with the heating element. Sometimes in some phenomena, if there is indirect resistance heating, we have to do the external stirring action in order to uniformly manage the heat between the charge. Figure above shows the simple sketch of indirect resistance heating oven. In this method, heat does not pass through the charge, hence natural stirring action is not there. So some external stirring operators are employed to get uniform heating. The appliances that work on this principle include immersion rod, electric kettles, electric iron, and cooking ovens. So these are few examples of the indirect resistance heating. So there are different types of electric furnaces or ovens which are normally used in our daily life. So this includes the resistance furnace, air circulation furnaces, and salt bath heating. So one by one, we will see that what is the use of all this. So first, we will discuss about the resistance furnace. This type of oven is used for cooling a heated job slowly by removing its brittleness, is known as annealing. So अब काम क्या हो गया इस टाइप का कि this type of oven is used for cooling a heated job by removing its brittleness. Whenever we heat some of the metal, there is some material or brittleness comes on the surface of the heating element. It may be in the form of grains, it may be in the form of any other way. So we in resistance furnace, what we do, we just in this usual process of annealing, the job is left covered with a scale of oxide which must be removed in order to have bright finish. So what we do, we just place the job at the other place. We just place the job at the other. Job mean any material which we are going to heat or which we are going to process. So the heated job, after some time, a layer of oxide covers it up, because in atmosphere there is a moisture, there is oxygen, there is any other thing. So it get reacted with the heated element or metal. So when it's get reacted, the oxide layer is formed on the surface and it becomes dark. So we just place it over there, and after some time we just hammered it up and the bright finish will comes to it. So this type of furnaces are normally used in iron industries or iron industries. So this type of furnaces we called a resistance furnace. The next one is the air circulation furnace. The charge may not get uniformly heated in an ordinary furnace in which heat is transferred to the charge by radiation. Okay, so here what is going on? The charge may not get uniformly heated in an ordinary furnace. If there is an issue that the charge may not get uniformly heated, so what we do, we have to transfer the heat by radiation. In such furnaces, air is passed over the heating element. We just turn on the fans and the heat will move towards the chamber, and after some time the temperature of whole the chamber becomes uniform, and this heated air is circulated over the charge uniformly to all parts of the charge by conduction. So such type of furnace is called air circulation furnaces. The next one is the salt bath heating. Salt bath furnaces are used for the purposes of tempering and hardening of steel tools. This type of furnace consists of a bath of some salt such as molten sodium chloride and two electrodes immersed in it. When the current between the electrodes immersed in the salt is passed, heat is developed and the temperature of the salt bath between 1000 degrees Celsius to 1500 degrees Celsius is used. The transfer of heat in this case is by conduction. बेसिकली इसके अंदर ये हो रहा होता है कि हमारे पास जो है वो एक टब या बाथ मटेरियल होता है, उसके अंदर हम लोग जो है वो मोल्टन सोडियम क्लोराइड जो है वो डाल देते हैं और फिर उसके ऊपर जो है वो इलेक्ट्रोड डाल देते हैं। तो वो बेसिकली होता क्या है कि जब करंट जो है वो इसमें से पास होता है तो बहुत ज़्यादा हाई टेम्परेचर जो है वो पैदा होता है, जिसको हम लोग जो है वो यूज़ करते हैं अपने स्टील को या आयरन को जो है वो हार्ड करने के लिए, उसको मुख्तलिफ किस्म की शेप देने के लिए। तो ये जो फिनोमिना होता है इसको हम लोग कहते हैं साल्ट बाथ हीटिंग। So what are the uses of the electric resistance ovens? So the first one is the drying and baking of pottery. The second one is the commercial and domestic cooking. The third one is the heat treatment of metals like annealing and hardening. And the fourth one is the stoving of enameled ware. So these are the uses of the resistance ovens. Whenever we are going to use the resistance oven, it is more important to control the temperature of the resistance oven. Temperature control is necessary in resistance ovens and furnaces. Temperature may be kept constant or varied according to the requirement. Control may be manual or automatic. Temperature can also be controlled by various combination of group of resistances used in ovens or furnaces in the following ways. Okay, so there are 4 methods with the help of which we can control the temperature of the resistance oven. The first one is the use of variable number of elements. In this method, the number of heating element in working are changed, so total power input is changed. So heating element is basically the electrode. The number of the elements, if is varied, the power input and the heat can be varied. For example, if there is any furnace wherein there are 10 heating elements, so as per requirement we can use any number of heating element. So with the help of use of variable number of elements, the temperature can be controlled. The next one is the change of connections. In this method, the elements are arranged to be connected either in series or in parallel or combination of both in star or in delta by means of switches at different instants according to the requirement. So here there are 2 things. One is the connection of the heating element in series or in parallel or combination. So the one way to change the temperature is to use the resistive elements in series or in parallel or in combination. Okay, and the second way to control the temperature is the connection of the heating element with the circuit. Either it may be in star or in delta, because we know that in star the line voltages and the phase voltages are different, but in delta there is no change in voltage, but there is a change in current can be take place. So according to our requirement, we can change the connection category. Either it is connected in star, either it is connected in delta. And by the combination of heating elements, we can connect the heating element with one and another in series or in parallel. So in this way, we can change the by changing the connection, we can change the temperature of the furnace. The third one is the transformer tapping. The voltage across the oven can be controlled by changing the transformer tapping. Definitely in every furnace, we have to make the connection with the help of a transformer. So by changing the tapping of the transformer, we can adjust the supply. This is the economical method for voltage control. Moreover, in this method, automatic temperature control is done by thermostatic control. So definitely, if we want to regulate the temperature, we have to use some thermostatic control. The next one is the external series resistance. The voltage across the oven can be controlled by varying external resistance connected in series with the circuit. So here, what we are going to do, we are just connecting a regulator. We are just connecting a rheostat. We are just connecting the variable resistor. By just changing the variable resistor, we can adjust the supply voltage. Its use is limited to small furnaces due to continuously wastage of power in the controlling resistance. So by these four methods, we can adjust the temperature of the resistance oven. Protective devices such as overload relay is provided and set to trip the circuit at 10 or 15% above normal current against damage. In addition to above, fuses are also provided either in the main circuit of oven or in the hold on coil of the energizing contactor to provide necessary protection due to failure of automatic control system. So definitely we are going to play with a huge amount of heat, with a huge amount of current, with a huge amount of potential. So definitely we have to apply protective devices in order to save the equipment, in order to save the human body. So now we will proceed towards an example. Uh, the first
Now,
example is that six resistance each of 100 ohms are used in resistance furnace. How much power is drawn with following connections and supply voltage? Kindly अपना mic off कर दें please. Six resistance each of 100 ohm are used in a resistance furnace. Okay, in the first statement, what is the important thing? That there are six resistive elements. There are six heating elements, and each heating element has resistance of 100 ohm. Okay, now the requirement is that how much power is drawn with following connections and supply voltage. So what we have to calculate? We have to calculate the power. And what are the conditions? The author are giving us different types of connections and supply voltages. The first case is that 230 volt single phase supply. So here the case is quite simple. We have 230 volts. Now we will see that what will be the combination in part A. Case 1, part A. 6 groups in parallel, each of one resistance. 6 groups in parallel, each of one resistance. So here we have 6 elements and all of them are in parallel. So we will go towards this. The power consumption of each element is, formula is quite same. P is equal to V square by R. V is given by 230 multiplied by 230, and R is the ended ohm. Here it is the resistance of one heating element. So the power consumption of one heating element is 5 to 9 watt. So the first part is that 6 groups in parallel, each of one resistance. The power consumption for 6 element in parallel is 6 multiplied by 5 to 9. 6 groups in parallel, each of one resistance. So the 6 elements producing the power of 3.174 kW. Case 1 part 2 is 2 groups in parallel, each of 3 resistance in series. So we have to calculate how much is the power consumed in 3 resistances in series. So again, the same formula, V square by R. So the V square is 230 multiplied by 230. And now this time R is 3 times the heating element. Each of 3 resistance in series. So there are 3 resistances, 100 plus 100 plus 100. So the power consumption by the one leg is 529 divided by 3 watt. So the power consumption of 2 groups in parallel is, we have to one group or one leg plus the second leg. So the power is 353 watt. In the second part, 400 volt 3 phase star connection. So 400 volt 3 phase star connection. So 400 volt 3 phase mean that it is the line voltage. We have to calculate how much is the potential per phase. So in star connection, in order to obtain the potential per phase, we have the formula VL divided by under root 3. So the line voltage is 400 volts, phase voltage is 400 divided by under root 3. We can get the phase voltage. Now case 2 part A, 2 heating element in parallel in each phase. 2 heating element in parallel in each phase. So in this scenario, what we do, equivalent resistance of 2 heating elements of 2 in parallel. Okay, one leg contain 100, second leg contain 100 ohm resistance, both in parallel. So the overall resistance is divided by 2. So what we do, 100 divided by 2, which is equal to 50 ohms. So how much is the power consumed? Again, same formula, V square by R. Now in this case, phase voltage V square by R, 400 divided by 3, we just multiply it by 2 and divided by R. In this case, the R is 50 ohms. So multiply by 1 by 50. So the power consumed in this scenario is 1.06 kW. Now the case 2 part B is 2 heating elements in series in each phase. 2 heating elements in series in each phase. So the total resistance in series of 2 elements is 100 plus 100. So the overall resistance is 200 ohm. And how much is the power consumed is V square by R. In this case, it is equal to 0.265 kW. Now we will move towards the case 3, which is 400 volt 3 phase delta connections. 400 volts 3 phase delta connection. So in delta connection, the line and the phase voltages are same. The line and the phase voltages are the same. So delta connection potential is 400 volts. Okay, the part A contains two elements in parallel in each branch. Two elements in parallel in each branch. So the total resistance of element in parallel is 100 divided by 2, same like case 2 part A, which is equal to 50 ohm. So power consumed in this case is V square by R, which is equal to 3.2 kW. And the part B is two elements in series, each branch. So here the elements are in series. So what we do, the total resistance of two elements in series is 100 plus 100, which is equal to 200 ohm. And how much is the power consumed is V square by R, which is equal to 0.8 kW, which is equal to 0.8 kW. So in this numerical, we can see that by changing the supply voltage and by changing the combination of the heating element or the resistive element, we can change the power consumption. In every case, you yourself consider and observe that in every scenario, by just changing the supply voltage and by changing the combination of the resistive elements, we can change the uh, power consumption requirement. So the next topic is basically the applications of the resistive heating elements. So some of the uh, applications include are the first one is the non-pressure type water heater. Um I hope that many of you have the electric geyser at your home and you already know the working of the electric geyser. So as per my suggestion, it is better to read these appliances by yourself because in the book it is very easily explained that how the electric geyser or the electric heater and how the temperature can be controlled, what is the electric circuit of the geyser. In every home there is an electric iron, and here it is already explained that how it works. You already know that how it is worked. uh, you already know the working of the electric radiator because sometimes when your muscle get pulled or there is some frozen shoulder, so whenever you go to the physician, he just switch on the bulb and he just applying the heat at that portion of the body. So by this way your muscle gets relaxed. So there is basically the heating element, and heat is directly going from here to the body. So you the next example is the immersion heater. So this type of material you already have if you are living in the hostel, that how to heat the water. You just connect it with the socket and this portion you put in the bucket. In this way you can heat the the bucket filled with water. In every home there is an electric toaster. So here the explanation of the electric toaster you can read by yourself, that how much and how the power is produced in it. You already know the working of the soldering iron. You already use the electric soldering in every semester, in every project. So the working of the electric soldering is an example of the electric heating. The next one is the electrode boiler. The electrode boiler, it is just like the just like same this one immersion heater. So try to read it yourself. The next one is an example of the hot air circulator. Normally we called it the electric heater. The cold air is going in from here, and here the electric fan, and here is the heating element. The cold air moves from the heating element and the warm air comes out. So this is an example of the electric heater. And in the last, there is the principle of the thermostat control circuit. You already read about this in your FSC or also in your physics course, that how the electric heater or bimetallic strip work. Basically, in bimetallic strip, there are two different metals having different coefficient of thermal expansion. Whenever the heat will pass through it, every metal will move according to the heat requirement. So in this way, the heating element will work. So for today, all this enough. So in today's lecture, we have discussed about the types of the electric heating. So basically there are four types. One is the power frequency heating. Next one is the high frequency heating, dielectric heating, infrared and radiant heating. And after this, we have discussed about the properties of the resistive heating elements. And in today's lecture, we have discussed about the resistance heating and its type, which includes the direct resistance heating and the indirect resistance heating. After this, we have discussed about the types of the electric furnaces and ovens. And after this, we have discussed about the temperature control of resistance oven, that how can we control the temperature of the resistance oven with the help of variable number of elements, by changing the connection, by using the transformer tapping, and by changing the external series resistance. As a test case, we have tried to solve the example, and from the example we observed that by changing the connection and by changing the uh, series and parallel combination of the heating element, the power consumption requirement can also be changed. And in the last, we have just see the different applications of the heating elements in our daily life. So try to read all these, and if you feel any confusion, you can ask me at any time. So for today, thank you very much, and Allah Hafiz.
Excuse me, sir.